BizBeat, the insight you need. I'm Junfeng. The WTO is calling for vaccine makers to waive their intellectual property rights, but Western countries have so far rejected the move, as big pharmaceutical companies, including Pfizer and AstraZeneca, have opposed it. India crossed 20 million cases of COVID-19 on Tuesday, May the 4th, with over 400,000 new cases and 3,600 deaths in a day. India is facing vaccine shortages, and just over 2% of its 1.3 billion people has received both doses. India's proposal at the WTO is simple. Let's not require countries to enforce IP protection at this time to COVID vaccine technologies. And it's only temporary, just for the pandemic, just to save lives. The proposal has been supported by over 160 countries in the world. Over 60 former heads of state and 100 Nobel Prize winners wrote a letter to President Joe Biden in April to back the proposal because a waiver would boost vaccine manufacturing and speed up the response to the pandemic in poorer countries, which otherwise might have to wait years. But big pharma, especially those in the US, opposed the waiver, threatens that if you go ahead, suspend our patents, we're going to somehow stop innovating. This is pretty rich, given that they are incredibly profitable, making billions with the vaccine orders they've already received. Pfizer expects sales of the vaccine to total $15 billion in 2021, with a profit margin of 30%. That means $4.5 billion profit, more than enough to cover its $1 to $2 billion R&D cost. Moderna is a relatively new drug maker that only had $60 million in revenue in 2019. It took in $529 million in grant revenue for its R&D and $200 million from early sales of its vaccine in 2020. The forecast for 2021 is $16 billion vaccine sales. Isn't that enough reward for your innovation? Plus, Big Pharma is lobbying US government that waiving vaccine patents will allow China and Russia to pick up the mRNA technology to make other drugs and hurt US medical jobs. Obviously, it's a scare tactic, playing the China card again. But excuse me, China's own mRNA vaccine is already in its final stage. The vaccine, called ARCOV, has been jointly developed by Suzhou Albakan, Academy of Military Science, and Volvax. Its factory in China's Yunnan province broke ground last December and could start production in the third quarter. Annual capacity is 120 million doses. Big Pharma needs to think big now. Vaccine is profitable for you, but not the most profitable products in your catalog, especially compared to drugs for chronic conditions. However, vaccine is a perfect PR for your industry, unlike any ever seen. By 2018, Big Pharma was the least trusted industry in the US and the worst-rated healthcare sector in the world. But now, there has been a sea change in the way people perceive you. As US Trade Representative Catherine Tai said, companies have the opportunity to be the heroes they claim to be. So do you want to be a hero or a greedy drug company that watches poor patients die?